Hi guys. So today I want to show you, it's probably not a new technique, but it's new to me. I have never done this before myself. I was playing with some watercolors and I wanted to do something a little bit different. As much as I like the smooshing effect of the watercolors on like acetate and then smooshing it onto watercolor paper, sometimes the colors get too muddy and then I can't really work with it the way I want to. So this is something I've sort of been working on for the last little while, and I've made a few cards. I think they've turned out rather well, but as you can see, the background is sort of like a marble effect, which is kind of what I like. And I was at Michael's the other day to buy some more cardstock, and lo and behold, in the the Best Buy or Hot Buy section, they had cards similar to this. So I don't know, maybe subconsciously I had it in my head, but anyway, I wanted to try a hand at doing my own. So this is the final result. So I'll show you the different steps that I've worked on. It's a lot of fun. What can I say? So basically you just get your watercolors out. You can use a watercolor palette or you can use your watercolor markers. These are from Recollection. I've also got some dollar store ones that I've tried, which work just as well. So whatever color combinations you want to do, by all means, go for it. And then you can stamp your design on your watercolor paper first. That's what I usually do because I think I haven't tried it the other way, but I think the other way it would be more difficult to. You don't want to make a mistake. You know what I mean? I don't know. I I'm not a perfectionist, but I don't like to do things over if I don't have to. So I like to make it as simple as possible. So I've just done a few other. I usually make a bunch of blanks like this ahead of time, and then I can just experiment with different watercolors or paints or markers, whatever the case may be. So in this case, we're doing this sort of marble kind of technique. So let's take this one. In the past, I've colored them individually and whatnot else, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I like the whole marble effect and then have this sort of be sort of an accent kind of thing. So that's all I've done. So basically, I'm just going to choose two different colors. You want to be as close to, well, not close, check your color wheel or pick your two favorite colors. Let's say we do two pinks. So one's a very light pink and one's much darker. No, don't forget, you can obviously, excuse me, make it much lighter with water. So it depends on how much saturation you have. So I just, for this one, my poor paintbrush has seen better days because I've been using this technique. Don't use your very, very, very good paintbrushes or your watercolor brushes. This one is pretty old, so it's seen better days, and I think I've used it for acrylic before too, so, but you should not do. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, so it looks like it's got split ends at this point, but that's all right. So all I'm going to do is just wet my marker, and then I'm just going to do little blobs. Easy, right? Blobs are simple. It really does not take a whole lot of planning. I mean, if you really want to be precise about it, you absolutely could. You could do it any which way you want, but I like the effortlessness of this, which is kind of nice. And you can listen to a movie in the background, your favorite music, but I want this to dry at different saturations so that you have sort of like this effect. You have the blobs on it, which is what I want. And then it's just a question of sort of make sure you go over the edge a little bit. Just fill it in. Don't have to be too precise. But I like some parts to be a little bit darker, some a little bit lighter, but it's all the same color. And then you can wet it a little bit more because then you get that little puddling effect. So you get the difference in the drying, which is kind of nice. That helps this effect anyway. So now I'm going to use the light color. It's really, really light, even though I have a piece of paper underneath here, but that's okay. And then it's the same thing, just filling in areas. It's not overly noticeable. You'd probably notice it more in real life kind of thing. The camera probably won't pick it up very well. But if you were to do this on your own, you'd definitely be able to see it. And I like being able to go over the darker color a little bit more, so it blurs the lines just that touch more. If you find this is too light for you, you can obviously choose a darker color. That's okay. And just go back and fill in the little spots in between the darker blobs. That's basically all you're doing. I like this because you can experiment with different colors and see which color combinations you like. I've done a blue and a green. It's really nice for spring, I think. I don't know. It's just, you could use pastels. You could use darker colors too, obviously. You can do whatever you like. But in this case, I kind of like the idea of the two lighter ones, because then you get to see the effect of the marbling afterwards a little bit nicer. It shows up a little bit more, which is what I want in this case. Now, when I first did this, I used my PearlEx, which is great. PearlEx, it's lovely for this kind of thing because it really shines. I made the mistake of just mixing it with water. I know, I don't read instructions very well, and it's been a while since I've used my PearlEx. So it came off when I touched it, which is not what you want. You want this to be permanent. So mixing it with gum arabic is your best bet for this kind of application. Okay, so you get the idea, right? And then if you want to highlight some of the darker, like the flowers a little bit more, you absolutely could. You could just, you just go like this. And I just kind of like that whole watercolor effect of the different drying times. And then you can go back a little bit. If you find you want to accent certain areas a little bit more, by all means, you can absolutely do that. Because these dry at different times, you get that whole softness in the background, which is kind of nice. So that's basically the idea. All right, I'll show you a close-up of it. So what you do at this point, you let it dry. If you want to fill in more areas, you absolutely could. You can go back with the darker color again. And then the more often you do it, the more you get that kind of puddly kind of look, which is what I'm looking for. I'm going to set that one aside. So I've done a bunch here so I can show you different colors. So this one is a green and like a light blue, like a baby blue. And then this is a darker blue with a lighter green. But I like that whole puddling effect. I like the little, I don't know what you call it. I really don't. But I like the idea of it. These ones I did with the Jane Davenport watercolor set. So these are obviously going to be a lot more opaque, a lot darker, more saturated in color. Whereas this one, it's just the marker. So the more you go over it, the more color you would add to it, which is fine. You can do it either way. You don't have to have a whole watercolor set. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we are going to pick one of these and we are going to work on that. So all I'm going to do, so I've got PearlEx, okay? So you have to mix it with gum arabic. And one of these little pipettes is probably your best bet. You could use a spoon or you could pour from there, but I find this is a little bit easier to judge how much you need. Now I've done it in gold and I've done it in silver. This one I think this time around, because this is the watercolor palette from Jane Davenport, I wanted to do the copper. I wanted to see how that sort of affects with the darker colors. So that is what I'm going to do. So it's just a question of taking a really nice thin little paintbrush with a nice point on it, and then I'm going to put some into, you don't have to be too precise, just going to set it aside. This can get a little messy. Don't sneeze if you can avoid it. And then you just use a little, you could use a drop or two if you wanted to. But you want it thin enough so that you can do a nice smooth line. You don't want it to catch, kind of thing. So. And then you're just going to mix it. Follow the instructions on your PearlEx. So. What I like about this too, you can keep reusing the same palette because it'll just pop right out once it's dry. And then you can just use another color, which is kind of nice. So you don't have to really worry too much about cleanup. So you want to make sure your paintbrush is fairly saturated. You don't want it to be like gloopy. I know that's a word, right? So all we are going to do is we are going to follow. And I usually hold it like this because I want it to be very loose. So all you're going to do is just follow different little striations that are on your watercolor background. And then just sort of fill it in. Try not to go over top of your picture because that would defeat the purpose. But the whole idea is to sort of follow where those little water marks are and then just sort of highlight that between the different colors. That's the idea anyway. I kind of like the copper too. If you do end up with something a little bit, you know, goopier, that's okay. But you're highlighting basically all the different colors, which is kind of cool without it, you know, being overwhelming. So you can sort of figure out where the color differences are. And then just, the more you do it, the more you'll see it. It's hard to pick up on camera. But eventually, you'll end up with something like that. So the copper is actually quite pretty too. But once it dries and then you frame your piece onto your card, it'll have a really nice effect because the shine will stay from the copper, from the PearlEx, which is quite beautiful. And then in the end, you have something like this, right? So the green, it really picks up the gold nicely. So when you hold it in the light, it really does shine. See that? It's really cool. And then I just put sequins on it because I'm extra. You know, why not more sparkle? And then, you know, a little accent here and there. You don't have to go, you know, do anything too spectacular, but that is how I would do it. Now, I have not tried a gel pen, so I am not entirely sure if that would work. Because gel pens, really, you know, they would look quite nice too. It'd be a little bit easier, especially if you don't have PearlEx. So I'm wondering how well that would work. All right, let's see. Let's see if it will work just as well. So it's just basically following the little, yeah, I think the gel pen would work too. So if you didn't have any PearlEx, you could absolutely do it with the gel pen. Just highlighting the little differences between the two colors. Make sure you don't go over top of your pictures that you've created, or stamped image, I suppose. Now you could absolutely do heat embossing. That's the word I was looking for. My goodness, my brain is not working today. But heat embossing would actually be quite pretty. So if you wanted to take it up a notch, you know, try something a little bit different, you absolutely could. But yeah, gel pen worked just as well. Now, it's not as shiny. It's a little bit more subtle, but it's not bad. So if you didn't have the PearlEx, you could absolutely do that. That's kind of cool too. It's definitely more subtle. Let's put it that way. So it depends on what look you're going for, right? So if you did heat embossing with this, maybe you want the background to be more subtle. Or maybe if you had a heat emboss marker, you could use that if you wanted to. That would take a little bit more work and a little bit of coordination, but you know, whatever floats your boat. So anyway, yeah, that is it, guys. I just wanted to share this technique with you and see, you know, for spring, I thought they'd be kind of cute for birthday cards, whatever. It's definitely something with a bit more sparkle than what I'm normally used to. So I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below if you try this, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.